This is part 2 in restoring the Stanley Bailey number 6 plane. If you haven't watched episode 1, just go back to my playlist and you'll see how I took it apart and did some very rough sort of cleanup of most of the parts. This episode we're going to take the body and all of the flat surfaces and hone them down on a piece of granite. So let's get to it. I picked up a nice piece of small granite just off of Craigslist for a few bucks. It's pretty smooth, i.e., I mean it's smooth, but it's pretty flat. I've checked it with a straight edge. There's very minor imperfections in it. Might very well be that there's little chips here and there. But so the process now is using this hard flat surface is to flatten out the bottom of this, or we call lapping. You can start off with some sandpaper. I wish I had, you know, a little bit bigger sandpaper or bigger piece of granite, but just going to start by sliding this over across some 120 grit sandpaper. We can start to see where it's contacting. We're contacting back in here, all around the throat. It's not too bad. I mean, we could check it with a straight edge as well, but I'm just going to keep at it. Yeah, most of it is all around the throat here, a little bit up in front here. So I am guessing that, you know, the high spots, the toe, the throat, or sorry, the toe, the throat, and the heel end of it, so that the middle is a little bit hollowed in both of these areas. It's going to take a bit of a work to get it all down flat. I can also take the downside face of the blade itself. Let's see if we can lap that a little bit smoother. You can see we're hitting here, all across the edge here, back corner here. You know, it's not terribly crucial that it be perfectly flat, but it is the part that's going to be riding on the frog itself. So, you know, what happens is when you tighten down the cap lever, you know, if this is flexing against the face of the frog because either one of these is not perfectly flat, then, you know, we're going to get some deflection. The other method of lapping is actually using lapping grit. This is from Lee Valley, comes in various grits. I'm starting off at 90. I have 280, what do we got? A 180, 280, 400, and 600 grit. So we can just actually put it down onto the stone and just grind away at it. We're getting there. I mean, I can see this area is still low, a little bit on the corner here, a bit low. Really starting to grind the high spots, definitely. Starting to hit in here. We're getting there. Let's also do the sides, see how that turns out. So now I've moved up to wet sanding. I'm at, what am I at here, 220 wet. We're getting pretty smooth. Now I'm not going to bother trying to get every little mark out of here, but I can definitely see that we have ground down the toe, the throat opening, and back in the middle here. Do a little on the sides, which are not as important unless you're turning it into a showpiece, which I am not. There's definitely the high spot is right in here. So I wonder if over time is that, you know, these wings, if I want to call them those, have actually moved in a bit, or I'm not sure. We're close though. The other thing we might want to check is that the sides are supposed to be at perfectly 90 degrees to the face. And yeah, I can see that it's high in this spot. It's perfectly good, it's nice and square down the toe end and the heel end here, but this area is definitely high. So as I put a straight edge across, I can definitely see that this area here is high. Is that a problem? Probably not, in that, you know, this is for smoothing out large pieces of wood, jointing, tabletops, that kind of thing. So should I be concerned about it? Probably not. All I'm going to do now is kind of just use by hand, same sandpaper here, and clean up some edges. Areas that have not really been contacted by the stone. Just to get rid of these scratches that were put in by the coarser sandpaper. Wear some pretty ruddy old clothes when you're doing this. You make a right carbon mess. Now we're going to need to give that a really good wash under some clean water and dry it off. And that piece is done. So the honing is quite an extensive and lengthy process. It's not really shown all in the video. I think the total amount of time that I spent on sanding on the granite, hand sanding, wet sanding down was probably about 3 or 4 hours in total. And it's, even now, it's still not perfect, but it's good enough for me. If I was trying to make a showpiece out of it and make it look brand new, you could spend, you know, a lot many more hours honing up those edges. But right now it's good enough for me. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned in part 3. We will reassemble this after sharpening up the blade itself and give this one a try. So thank you very much for watching. Maybe consider becoming a subscriber, and at least do me a favor and hit that like button.